We all love a good mystery, right? Well, the story of the sleepers of the cave is one of the most famous tales of miraculous survival. But what if I told you there's a tiny detail in that story about their dog that was a complete puzzle for over 1,400 years, until science stumbled upon the answer by accident? All right, so here's the puzzle at the heart of it all. The scripture is super specific. The young men who were sleeping were turned from side to side to keep their bodies from decaying. Makes sense. But their dog, who was right there at the entrance with them, it stayed perfectly still for centuries. So how on earth is that possible? To really get to the bottom of this, we've got to go right to the source. The whole mystery is laid out in just 2 key verses from the Quran, from the chapter called Surah al-Kahf, which actually means the cave. So let's set the scene here. These weren't just some guys taking a long nap. They were young believers on the run, hiding from persecution. They find this cave, and they fall into this incredible, divinely protected sleep that lasts for over 300 years. Okay, so the first clue we get is all about the environment of the cave itself. The text points out that the sunlight came in, but it never hit their bodies directly. Think about it. This gave them just enough light and air circulation to prevent decay, but without causing any kind of damage or sunburn over all those years. Pretty clever. And this is where it gets really interesting. This is the verse at the heart of the whole mystery. It draws a super clear line in the sand. The men are being actively turned over, left and right. But the dog, it's just described as stretching its paws out, totally still. So fast forward hundreds and hundreds of years. This ancient puzzle written in a holy book, it ends up in the lap of someone you'd least expect, a modern, skeptical German medical scientist. And his journey to finding the answer started, of all things, with being bored on a plane. I mean, you gotta picture this, right? A young man gives him a copy of the Quran. The scientist is polite, but he's a man of science. He just sticks it in his pocket, probably thinking he'll toss it out later. But then he's stuck on this long, mind-numbingly boring flight, and he remembers the book. So he pulls it out, starts flipping pages, and he lands right on this story. And this is really the key to the whole thing. He wasn't reading this looking for spiritual guidance. Nope. He was reading it like a doctor, with a brain trained to see patterns, to look for logic, and to analyze things based on hard scientific facts. So his medical brain starts firing on all cylinders. What starts as just a curious story in an old book turns into this fascinating medical and biological question that he can't let it go. Right away, the first part of that verse just clicks. It makes perfect sense to him. Turning an immobile body over and over, that's textbook medical care. We do that today for patients in comas to prevent horrible pressure sores or bed sores. To him, this was a sign of incredible, almost modern medical knowledge. And there it is. That's the paradox, right? If the book is so spot on with the medical science for the humans, why does it seem to totally ignore the same biological reality for the dog? Why treat the men but not their pet? To a scientific mind, it just didn't add up. It felt like a flaw in the story. This is the question that just wouldn't leave him alone. For a human, or really any animal he could think of, this would be impossible. The body would develop sores, get infected, and decay. So why was the dog the exception? Was there something he was missing? Okay, so now his curiosity is on fire. He's not just a casual reader anymore. He's on a mission. He moves on from the ancient text and starts diving deep into modern veterinary science, canine biology, anything to find a rational, scientific explanation for this. And let's not forget, we're talking about a mind-boggling amount of time here, 309 years. Whatever the answer was, it couldn't just explain being still for a few weeks. It had to work for over 3 centuries. So he's digging, he's researching, and he stumbles onto something pretty amazing and not very well known about dog biology. It turns out dogs have these special glands under their skin called dermal glands, and they're constantly producing this unique substance. And bam, there it is, the aha moment. This secretion, it's like a built-in natural defense system. It literally stops sores from forming and prevents the tissue from breaking down and decaying. So as long as a dog is alive, it's basically protecting its own skin from the inside out, even if it's not moving. The dog didn't need to be turned. Okay, so let's just pause and connect the dots here. You have this puzzle from a 1,400-year-old book, and you have an answer from modern biology. And the point where they meet is just, well, it's stunning. When you lay it all out like this, the picture is just incredible. The text shows a clear understanding of human medical needs, turn the sleepers. It shows a precise, specific understanding of canine biology, leave the dog untouched. What looked like a contradiction or a mistake was actually a point of even deeper accuracy. And really, that's the incredible part, isn't it? This tiny detail that you could easily read right past while their dog stretched his forelegs, it wasn't just poetic language. It was a statement of biological fact, a fact that we couldn't even verify with science until more than 1,000 years later. And that just leaves you with this one huge question, right? If this one tiny detail hidden in a story about a sleeping dog held a scientific truth that was so specific and so accurate, it makes you wonder, what other secrets are hiding in plain sight in these ancient texts, just waiting for us to catch up?